Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Omoti. In our today's video, we'll be making this beautiful dress you are seeing on the thumbnail. If this is what you're interested in watching, kindly watch to the very end. And a big thank you to all my returning subscribers. And if you are new on my channel, I say you are highly welcome. And please don't forget to turn on your notification bell in case I drop a new tutorial. Let's get started. This is the fabric I will be making use of. So I have this Kampala. I have 2.5 yards here. I'm using 2.5. Using 1 yard for the black, and I've ironed an interfacing on it. So we'll come to that later. So this is it. I've folded it out. To determine what to fold, I'm folding both front and back together, which I've ironed an interface on the front, as you see me. I've ironed an interface so as to give it a little bit firmness at that bottom part. So both front and back are folded into two. So I place the back on the front. Are you getting me? So to determine what to fold is the biggest circumference, which is the hip, divided by 4. You add 5 inches to it. Are you getting me? Divided by 4, your hip divided by 4, you add 5 inches to the result you got. So that's what I folded here. And that part you see me touching in the video is the bottom placket, which is 2 inches. I make use of 2 inches at that point. So the next thing I did now is to start our measurements. All measurements will be starting at that folded part. So I'll start by rolling out my rolling out my starting point of 1/2 inch. Please bear with me, my chalk is not showing, just follow what I'm doing. So the length of the gown is 40 inches plus 1 inch, which is 41. Please measure out the length of your gown and you add the hemming allowance of 1.5 inches, but I used 1 inches for mine. So at that starting point, I measure the 3 inches neckline. I measure 3 inches neckline at that point. I'm using 3 inches neckline. So 3 inches. I've marked out my 3 inches. At the end point, I'll be coming down by 1 inches at that point. That will serve as my shoulder slope. Then that 1 inches, I'll connect it back to the 3 inches. I'm going to connect it to the 3 inches like so. So the next thing to do now is I measured from that 1 inch. I came down by 10.5. Sorry, I first used 10 inches, later I changed it to 10.5. So just measure out what you want, how wide you want your own sleeve to be. Are you getting me? But don't use more than 11. Are you getting me? It's okay. So I'm using 10.5 here. Now I told you earlier that I measured 10 inches before. I later changed it to 10.5. So I'll be using 10.5 at that point for my sleeve opening. So at that 10.5, I'm going to give it a little notch. I'll be cutting it inward by 1/2 inch. I will explain further when we continue. The reason why I'm cutting that place inward, you understand. So the next thing to do is to measure 1 inch for my neck depth, which is for the back. I will be using 1 inch for the neck depth of the back and 4 inches for the depth of the front. So then I will connect with my cuff rule. I'm going to connect it with my cuff rule. So I make use of 4 inch for the front and 1 inch for the back neck depth. So this is it. I've connected it with my cuff rule. I'm going to cut this out, and at the shoulder part, I'll be adding 1/2 inch on the shoulder. This way I'll be adding 1/2 inch for my shoulder joining. So then I will be cutting it out. I've cut it out. This is what you should have. So that's my 1/2 inch. Please note, you cut your back front, you lift it up to cut the back. then you lift it up and cut your front. So that's it. At that part, I'll be opening it up. I'll be opening that part up, which I've done. And you see, I've opened it up. So the next thing to do now is to notch that part where the 2 inches is starting from. You notch the upper part and you notch the down part also. So we are through with our cutting. The next thing to do is to start joining. So this is the the other black material that I showed you. Can you see? I've ironed it down. So the length of this what's it called, is the same length of the gown, 41 inches, and the width is 5.5. I have 6 inches there. I'll be cutting the extra. You can also use that 6 inches, are you getting me, to be on a safer side, but as for mine, I make use of 5.5. So it's better you make use of 6 inches, because when I cut out the half, and I notice I have a little bit shortage. Are you getting me? So just make use of 6 inches for the width, and the length should be the length of your gown. So I've placed it, I've pinned it on it. Can you see? I've pinned it on it. Please note the black also is on fold, because we have two piece for the front, so it should be on fold also. So I'm going to use that to trace the front neckline. I'm going to use it to trace the front neckline this way. Just watch what I'm going to do. So this is it. Have Can you see what we have? This is what you should have. So I'm going to open the front part also. That black, I've opened it. Can you see? I've opened all the pieces now. So the next thing to do is to notch that part. Since we've notched the main fabric, we have to notch the black also. So you notch the upper part and you notch the down part also. So after notching, this is what you should have. Then the next thing to do now is to separate both the two pieces for the front. Then you place the back, right side of one of the back on the right side of one of the front piece, this way. Then you run a stitch from that part all the way down. You do the same thing to the other side. I've used pin to pin mine down. Are you getting me? So after running your stitch, then you stop stitch on the black. Please don't on your fabric. Top stitch on the black. Are you getting me? So after top stitching, give it a very good press and you turn it this way. It's going to relax inward. So you do the same thing to the other side. So after sewing it down, open it up this way. Place the back on it, right side facing each other. Are you getting me? Then you sew it half an inch on the shoulder on one side, and you do the same thing to the other side. So after sewing it down, this is what you should have. So this is it. I've joined the shoulder. If you notice something, that I didn't sew the black to the shoulder. Can you see it there? I didn't sew it to the shoulder. Please take note of that also. So, and I've opened the seam up and I've ironed it down. Can you see it's looking beautiful already? You should do the same also. When you are sewing, you should iron. So place the front, both front and back. Can you see? Place them together this way so that you can get the center back. So measure what you have at the neckline this way. Measure it out. For mine, I've measured it. I have 11 and a half. I have 11 and a half. 11 and a half times 2 will give me 23. So from that 23, you minus 2 inches from the 23. You minus 2 inches from it. I will be left with 21. Are you getting me? 21 inches. So 21 inches divided by 2 will give me 10.5. So this will take us to the cutting of the collar. So this is another fabric which I've ironed my interface on it. Can you see I'm folding it? I folded it. So what I have, you should have like 8 to 9 inches. I'm just trying to manage what I have because this is an leftover fabric. So 8 to 9 inches in length, then you fold it into two this way, fold it into two this way. No, I measured 10 and a half. Measure whatever you have of your own neckline, the minus two from it. Are you getting me? Times it by two, then you minus two from it. Whatever the result is, you add half an inch to it. So mine is 10 and a half plus half an inch will give me 11 inches. So what I have at that point is 11 inches. So that's the folded part. I will be taking 3 and a half. I will be marking 3 and a half at that point. As I've said earlier, I'm trying to manage this fabric. I'm using 2 and a half at that point also. So I will connect from that 3 and a half to the 2 and a half. Please, if I'm too fast, try and watch this video again. You will get what I'm saying. So I've connected it and I will be cutting out the excess that I have. So our collar is ready. So we'll be making use of a lazy method at this point. Don't mind me. So I've cut it out. Please work with your iron so that it will make your work easier. So I'll be folding it this way. I folded it, I will run half an inch at that point. You know, I added half an inch to it, half an inch also. After doing that, I will turn it out and give it a very good press. Then I will close the down part with my sewing machine. Can you see I've done that and I've closed it down? So please, at this point you should weave that part, but as at now we don't have lights, so I can't do that now. So the next thing to do now is to place it on our neckline. So you open it up, right side facing right side. You start your placement on the center back and the center of the collar also. Just pin it down. That's why I told you will be using a lazy method. So you are going to take it this way, following the shape of the collar. Just try to sew, start sewing down by half an inch. I'm going to pin it first so that to make my work easier. Are you getting me? You continue to pin wherever the collar stop, that's where you are stopping. Please note you are not sewing on the main gown placket, that black one. Can you see that I'm not pinning down on it? Just watch closely, you understand what I'm saying. Can you see? It's just the bodies that I'm putting the collar on, not. Can you see what I'm saying? So after sewing down your collar, you now flip it this way. Can you see? Can you see what I'm doing? That way, like that. Just continue to sew it down by half or quarter of an inch. Just sew it down. After sewing, then you notch, then you do the same thing to the other side and you turn it out. So after doing that, I've done mine. Can you see how beautiful this is looking already? Can you see? Please, you should weave. Try and weave. I don't have light now, that's why you are seeing it this way. So after doing that, I've turned it outside. Then I'm going to give it a top stitch. I will be top stitching on that part very close. I will be top stitching on it. You top stitch on it so it will relax well. I will top stitch till I get to the other end. So at that part, I will be weaving it and using my hemming gun to gum it down. I will weave the edges and use my hemming gun to gum it down. And you get that it will relax very well. So I'll do the same thing to the other side also. So the next thing to do now is to flip this part, which is the down part. I will flip it this way and I will be sewing it down by 1.5. Please, whatever allowance you added at your end part, that's what you are using to sew. So I'll be sewing it down by 1.5. So I've sewn it this is what it should look like. So I'm trying to show you. I'll sew it down by 1.5. Can you see? Then I will flip it to the other, to the good side, and I've given it a very good press. Can you see that it has automatically folded by its own? So I folded half an inch inward, and I will be folding the remaining. I'll weave the edge, fold half an inch inward, then I will turn it this way, but I'll be using my hemming gum to hem it down. I will do the same thing to the other side also. So the next thing to do now is to take the sides together. And you see that's the notch part that I told you, which is the our round sleeve. So I'll be sewing it down by 3/4 of an inch at both sides. So I've folded it, and the down at the back also I've folded it by 1.5, which I'll be using my hemming gun to hem the down also. So after hemming, this is what you should look like. I've done the other side. I've sewed it down. Can you see? This is it. Can you see how beautiful this is looking now? I've given it a very good press. And you see I've hemmed the down part, I've hemmed the front also, and I've ironed it down. And you see how it's looking? So the next thing to do now is to measure how you want the overlapping to be. So I measure 7 at that point, measure 7 inches. So from the 7 inches, that's where I'm going to be starting the overlapping. So at that point, you measure 1 inch inward for your bottom placket. That's where you are starting, 1 inch inward. And then from that 1 inch, you start to measure 4 inches interval, 4 inches interval. And please note, your button is always on the button hole is always on the right side for ladies, while the button itself will be on the left side. So from the shoulder, I measured out 20 inches. That's where I will be placing my pocket. I measure down from the shoulder 20 inches. So at that point is 20 inches. I'll be telling you how I made this pocket. So I've done one. I'll be showing you how I did the other, the pockets. So let me show you how I made the pockets. I have this fabric of the width is 8 inches in width, 8 inches in width, while the length is 9.5, 9.5 in length. So I'll be folding it inward by half an inch on both sides. So this is another fabric which is black, is on fold, I've ironed it. So the length is 3 inches and the width is the width of the pocket. So what I'll be doing now is to place the what's it called, the black fabric at the back of the pocket, the wrong side of the pocket, and I'll be sewing it down by half an inch. So after sewing it down, I'll top stitch on it. So then I'll flip it to the right side and I'll sew it down. So after sewing it down, I'll be folding inward half an inch both side and the down part. So that was how I made the pocket. So the next thing is to place the pocket on it. Now I measured from the shoulder 20 inches, and from the placket I measured in 5 inches. So 20 inches from the shoulder, and from the bottom placket I measured 5 inches. Then I'll be sewing it all the way like that, and I will do the same thing to the other side. Well, the next thing is the what's it called, is the sleeve. So what I have, I'm going to measure out 7 inches plus half an inch, which is 7.5. That will serve as my sleeve length, and I'll be using 10.5 because it was 10.5 I notched on the main bodies, which I notched for my sleeve opening. So, and it's folded into two this way. Why 10.5 times 2 give me 21 inches. So what I have there now is 21 inches in width and 7.5 in length. So let me quickly show you what I did. So I've done that, and I've opened it up and sewed the sides. I've joined the sides by 1/2 inch. So I added 1/2 inch to it, which is 11 inches. So I used the 1/2 inch to sew it at the side. Can you see? I'm trying to fold it into two this way. If you don't want to do this, you can just use one single piece instead of folding yours, the same thing I did. So I've joined one of the sleeve to the gown. I will be showing you how I did that. So you take your sleeve, at that sleeve part where we notched, I was telling you the other time when we were cutting that I will explain the reason why you should notch that place. So you placed the sleeve inside it this way. You turn your gown out to the wrong side. You turn it to the wrong side. Then you placed, can you see that part that you've cut? You cut it inward by 1/2 inch. Then you place the good side. Can you see the good side of the sleeve inside the gown, inside the good side? That means right side facing each other. Can you see what I did there? Please try and watch this video carefully. You will get what I'm trying to explain. So when you cut it inward by 1/2 inch, it will open that part up. It will open it very well, so that you will not be having a folded what's it called? The armhole will not be folded at that part. So if you notch it inward, it will relax well. So just not cut in 1/2 inch inward and place the sleeve, then you sew it round. So can you see our sleeve also is ready, the gown is ready. The next thing to do now is to place our button. So I don't have button right now. I'll just try and make use of the button I have now until I get a button for it. Let me just, so I'll place one there. I will mark 4 inches down, place another one 4 inches down, place another one 4 inches down. As I've said earlier, right side of the dress is where your buttonhole will be, while the other side is for your button. So please, if you have found this video helpful, kindly give it a thumbs up, like and share my video, and please don't forget to turn on your notification bell, and please subscribe to my channel for more. See you in my next video. Bye.